Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I want to take you on a journey into the power of silence, something we often overlook in a world that seems to value noise. But here's the thing, we don't always need to speak up to be heard. In fact, sometimes the most impactful moments come from what we don't say. I know that might sound strange, but stay with me. I've learned firsthand how silence can shift the way people perceive you, how it can change your relationships, and even your entire life. We live in a time where everyone is fighting for attention, on social media, at work, even in our personal lives. But have you ever noticed that the people who speak less often have the most influence? It's not because they're holding back, it's because they understand that real power comes from knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet. When I was first creating content, I thought I had to be loud to stand out, but I quickly realized that true influence isn't about volume, it's about meaning. Silence gives us room to listen, to understand, and to connect on a deeper level. Imagine being in a conversation where, instead of trying to think of the next thing to say, you just listen. You're fully present, absorbing what the other person is saying. It creates trust, builds stronger relationships, and, here's the beauty, it makes people actually value your words when you finally speak. I know this may sound counterintuitive, especially in a world where we're told to constantly assert ourselves, but the truth is, silence often speaks louder than words. You don't need to constantly prove your worth through talking. Sometimes the greatest power lies in your ability to listen and observe. And that's why today, we're talking about the 9 qualities of less speaking people. These are the traits that make them so compelling, so strong, and why, if you harness the power of silence, you can transform the way you live and connect with others. As we go through each quality, think about how you can apply these in your own life, whether it's in a meeting at work, a conversation with a loved one, or even when you're just reflecting on your day. Trust me, embracing silence is not just about saying less, it's about being more. If this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. If you've ever felt that words aren't enough to express the depth of your thoughts, or that people don't really listen when you speak, I think this video will open your eyes to a different way of communicating. Let's embrace the power of silence together. And if you find this useful, give the video a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. 1. Silence creates mystery. Let's talk about something we've all felt but maybe don't fully recognize. The power of silence and how it creates an almost magnetic sense of mystery. I want you to really think about this. When you speak less, you leave people wondering about you. You give them space to ask themselves, what's going on in their mind? That curiosity pulls people in without you even having to try. Here's a personal story I want to share with you. For a long time, I believed that the more I talked, the more I would be noticed. I used to think that filling every quiet moment with my thoughts was the way to connect with others. But what I didn't realize at the time was that by oversharing, I was losing that element of intrigue, the kind of mystery that makes people pay attention when you do speak. The moment I started to choose my words more carefully and let the silence hang in the air, something shifted. People began leaning in, really listening, because they didn't know what I'd say next. There was an energy in the silence itself, a feeling of anticipation that made my words count. Silence has this incredible ability to make people stop and listen. It's like playing poker and holding back your best hand. You don't always need to show all your cards. Sometimes, less is more. When you hold back just a little, when you don't feel the need to say everything all at once, it leaves people thinking, wondering, and waiting. And that's when your words start to have real impact. They become more deliberate, more present, and carry a weight that's felt deeply. Think about how many times we've all caught ourselves over-explaining, trying too hard to make a point. We keep talking, thinking it will make us clearer or more understood, but often it has the opposite effect. I've learned through my own experience that you don't have to constantly prove yourself with words. Sometimes your silence speaks for you. It shows confidence. It shows that you don't need validation from others to know your worth. So the next time you're in a situation where you feel the urge to fill the air with words, pause. Just pause. Let the silence linger. Let the mystery build. Let people lean in and wonder. Trust me, your silence will speak louder than you think, and it will carry more power than any words could. If you've ever felt the pressure to always say something, I want you to take a step back and embrace the power of silence. It's a game changer. And if you found value in this, please hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with someone who could use a reminder that silence isn't empty. It's full of potential. Let's unlock that potential together. 2. Silence heightens your awareness. Let's dive into something powerful. How silence heightens your awareness. When you're not caught up in filling every moment with words, something incredible happens. You start to really notice what's happening around you. You tune into the people, the energy, and the subtle shifts in conversations that most people miss. It's like putting down your phone and finally seeing the world for what it is, alive, detailed, and full of meaning. Here's the thing. Silence gives you the space to truly listen. And I'm not just talking about hearing words. I'm talking about picking up on the unspoken things, the body language, the pauses, the emotions that people are expressing but not saying. When you stop talking, you start observing. You see beyond the surface, and suddenly, you're aware of things you wouldn't have noticed if you were busy trying to be heard. I can't tell you how many times I've caught myself talking so much that I missed what someone else was really trying to say. I thought I was contributing, but all I was doing was clouding my own ability to understand. When I started to speak less and listen more, everything changed. I could actually feel the room, sense the unspoken dynamics, and respond in a way that was more meaningful because I wasn't just reacting, I was aware. This isn't about staying silent forever. It's about being intentional with your words, knowing when to speak and when to let silence do the work for you. Silence is not about retreating. It's about giving yourself the clarity to see what's really going on. So, the next time you're in a conversation, try it. Hold back. Give yourself the space to absorb what's happening. You'll be amazed at how much more you understand when you're not focused on what you're going to say next. Let's unlock the wisdom in silence, together. 3. Silence prevents unnecessary conflict. We've all been there, caught in the middle of a heated moment, saying things we wish we hadn't. It happens so quickly, right? Emotions take over, and before you even realize it, the words are out, doing their damage. And here's the truth that stings the most. Once spoken, words can't be taken back. They linger, sometimes causing more harm than we ever intended. But here's the part we often overlook. What if, instead of reacting immediately, we paused? What if, in those moments of high tension, we chose silence? It's not about being passive or giving in. It's about giving yourself a moment to breathe, to think. This is something I've had to learn the hard way. There were times when I thought the only way to defend myself or prove my point was to speak up, quickly and forcefully. I was so focused on being heard that I never realized the real power I was giving away by not stopping to reflect first. One day, though, something shifted. I was in the middle of an argument, emotions running high, and everything inside me wanted to lash out, to fire back with my opinion, my defense. But something told me to wait, to just let the moment sit there, and so I did. I chose silence. What I found in that silence was clarity. I had the space to think about what was really happening, to understand not just what the other person was saying, but how I was feeling too. And you know what? That silence didn't just help me. It helped the other person as well. It gave them the room to hear their own words, to reflect on what they were actually saying. What could have escalated into a full-blown conflict and didn't. Instead, it turned into something entirely different. An actual conversation, where both of us had the chance to think before we spoke. I realized then that silence isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of control. It's a choice to not let your emotions dictate your response. and that is incredibly powerful. You see, silence doesn't mean surrender. It means giving yourself, and the other person, a moment to process, to let the heat of the moment pass. It's like stepping back from the edge of a cliff, taking a breath before deciding your next move. And in that pause, you gain something priceless: perspective. I'm not saying it's easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest things to do when you're feeling attacked or misunderstood. But the next time you feel that urge to jump in and defend yourself, to speak out of frustration, I want you to try something different. Pause. Just for a second. Let the silence sit there. You'll be surprised at how much it can change the dynamic of a conversation. When you choose silence, you choose to protect your peace. You prevent unnecessary conflict from spiraling out of control. You give yourself the power to decide what's worth responding. 4. Silence builds trust. Let's dive into something we often overlook: how silence can actually build trust. In a world where everyone is eager to speak, eager to be heard, those who take the time to listen stand out. And here's why. When you listen, really listen, without interrupting or jumping in with your own thoughts, you're showing the other person that they matter. You're telling them, without words, that what they're saying is important enough for you to stop, to pause, and to take it in. I can't stress enough how much this has transformed my own relationships. There was a time when I thought being a good friend, a good partner, meant always having something to say, some advice to give, or a story to share. But what I realized over time is that the most meaningful connections don't come from talking. They come from listening, from being fully present, without trying to fill every pause or silence with your own words. And here's the thing: when people feel truly listened to, they feel understood. And when they feel understood, they begin to trust you on a deeper level. It's like you're telling them, "I'm here with you, I see you, I hear you," and that creates a bond that's hard to break. I've had moments in my life where a simple shift, listening instead of responding, has completely changed the dynamic of a relationship. Friendships that were once surface level became deeper because I stopped trying to be the one with all the answers. I gave space for the other person to just be, to express what was on their mind, without rushing to insert my own perspective. And in that space of silence, trust was built. Silence is a gift you give to others. It says, "I'm not here to judge, or to solve, or to fix. I'm just here to listen." And in a world full of distractions and noise, that kind of presence is rare. It's powerful. It's what turns acquaintances into close friends and colleagues into trusted allies. So next time you're in a conversation, try something different. Instead of thinking about what you're going to say next, focus completely on the other person. Let the silence linger a little longer. Resist the urge to fill the space with your own words. I promise you, it's in those moments of quiet that trust begins to form. You'll be amazed at how much deeper your connections become. It's not always about having the perfect thing to say. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply be there, fully and quietly, letting the other person know they're not alone. 5. Silence teaches patience. Let's talk about patience, something most of us struggle with. We live in a world that moves fast, where everything feels like a race. We're constantly rushing to the next meeting, the next conversation, the next achievement. And in that rush, we often lose sight of the value in waiting, in letting things unfold naturally. But here's where silence comes in. Silence has this incredible way of slowing you down, of forcing you to pause and reflect before you act. It teaches you the kind of patience that, frankly, doesn't come naturally to most of us. I used to think that speaking up quickly, especially in meetings or important discussions, made me appear more confident or knowledgeable. I thought if I didn't get my point across immediately, I'd lose my chance to stand out. But over time, I realized something profound. When I waited, when I allowed myself the patience to truly process what was happening around me before jumping in, my words carried more weight. I wasn't just speaking to fill the silence. I was speaking because I had something meaningful to say. Silence teaches you that not everything needs an immediate reaction. In fact, some of the best decisions, the most insightful contributions, come from waiting, letting the moment breathe before you respond. I noticed that when I began to pause and be patient, people started paying more attention to what I said. They respected my input more because they knew I wasn't just talking to be heard. I was talking because I had something worth sharing. And here's the truth. That kind of patience transforms how people see you. It shows that you're not reactive, that you're thoughtful, and that you understand the value of timing. You don't need to rush into every conversation, every decision. Silence has a way of teaching you that the best moments, the best opportunities often come when you're patient enough to wait for them. I'll carry that lesson with me for the rest of my life. There's a calm that comes with knowing you don't always have to be the first one to speak, the first one to act. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to hold back, let the situation develop, and then, when the time is right, step in with clarity and intention. Next time you find yourself in a rush to respond or make a decision, take a breath. Let the silence settle in for a moment. You'll find that not only does it calm your mind, but it also allows you to respond in a way that's more thoughtful and impactful. Patience is a gift, and silence is what wraps it up for you. 6. Silence commands respect. Let's talk about respect and how silence plays a major role in commanding it. There's a simple truth that we often overlook. The more you speak, the less weight your words carry. It's like inflation. Too many words, and their value starts to drop. But when you choose your moments carefully, when you speak only when you truly have something meaningful to contribute, that's when people sit up and listen. They know that if you're saying something, it's worth their attention. I've seen this play out time and time again, both in my professional life and in social situations. When you're constantly talking, trying to be the loudest voice in the room, it may seem like you're being heard, but in reality, people start tuning you out. It's not because what you're saying isn't important. It's just that the more you say, the less impactful it becomes. I used to think that in order to get people to notice me, I had to speak up, to make sure I was part of every conversation. But what I learned, sometimes the hard way, is that silence speaks louder than words ever could. When you hold back, when you reserve your voice for the moments that matter most, people start to respect you more. They realize that when you do speak, it's because you have something valuable to add. It's like this. Imagine you're in a meeting, and there's that one person who is always talking, always chiming in with something. After a while, their words lose impact. People start tuning them out because they're always contributing, even when it's not necessary. Now contrast that with someone who stays quiet, observes, and only speaks when they've thought through what they want to say. When that person speaks, the room pays attention. Why? Because their words have been earned through their silence. They've shown that they're not speaking just to be heard, they're speaking because they've thought about what needs to be said. It's not about being silent all the time. It's about making your words count. It's about understanding that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is hold back, observe, and wait for the right moment to make your point. That's where real respect comes from. People respect someone who doesn't waste their words. They respect someone who values silence enough to know when to break it. The beauty of silence is that it allows you to be more intentional with your communication. When you're not constantly talking, you're more deliberate about what you say. Your words carry more weight because they aren't diluted by unnecessary noise. People start to listen more closely because they know that if you're speaking, it's worth their time. So next time you're in a situation where you feel the urge to speak up just to fill the silence, resist. Let the silence work for you. Let it build anticipation. And when you do decide to speak, know that your words will be heard. Silence commands respect in a way that words alone never can. 7. Silence is a key negotiation tool. Let's talk about one of the most underrated tools in negotiation: silence. We often think of negotiation as a battle of words, where the one who talks the most wins. But the truth is, silence, when used strategically, can be the most powerful card you play. Think about it. When you're negotiating, whether it's a salary, a business deal, or even setting personal boundaries, there's always this pressure to fill the silence. We're conditioned to believe that if we're not talking, we're losing ground. But here's the thing. Silence creates space. It creates a gap that the other person often feels compelled to fill. And in that space, they tend to reveal more than they intended, whether it's their true priorities, their flexibility, or even their insecurities. I've used this tactic myself in salary negotiations, and let me tell you, it's a game changer. Early in my career, I made the mistake of filling every quiet moment with reasons why I deserved a raise, justifying my worth over and over. But the more I talked, the more I realized I was giving away my power. I wasn't letting my silence work for me. So I changed my approach. In my next negotiation, after stating my case, I stayed quiet. I let the silence hang, and it wasn't easy. There's always that urge to jump in, to say something, anything, to avoid the discomfort of silence. But I waited, and what happened next was eye-opening. The other person started talking, filling the silence I had left. They revealed more about what they could offer, what their limitations were, and even admitted that the initial offer could be adjusted. That's the beauty of silence in negotiation. It's not about manipulation. It's about creating space for the other person to think, to reconsider, and often to reveal their hand. When you stay quiet, you gain control without even saying a word. You don't need to rush to respond. Just let the silence work its magic, and you'll be surprised at how much more leverage you gain. The same principle applies in any negotiation, whether it's business, personal, or even in everyday situations. Silence gives you the upper hand because it forces the other party to engage on your terms. They start to question whether they've said enough, whether they've made the right move. And in that uncertainty, you hold the power. And here's another key insight. Silence shows confidence. It tells the other person that you're not desperate, that you don't need to fill the air with justification or persuasion. It communicates that you know your worth and that you're willing to stand in that quiet space, waiting for them to make the next move. So the next time you find yourself in a negotiation, remember this. Silence is your ally. State your position, then stop. Let the silence hang. Let them talk. You'll be amazed at how much you can learn and how much more control you'll have simply by staying quiet. It's a strategy, not a trick. And it's one that can shift the dynamics of any negotiation in your favor. Silence isn't just about holding back. It's about holding power. Use it wisely and watch how the tables turn. 8. Silence focuses your energy. Let's talk about something powerful that silence gives you. Focus. We live in a world where distractions are constant. We're always bombarded with noise, people talking, phones buzzing, notifications demanding our attention. It's easy to get caught up in it all, to lose sight of what really matters because we're so busy filling every moment with words or thoughts that don't actually serve us. But here's where silence steps in. When you stop constantly talking or feeling the need to fill the space, you free up your energy to focus on what's truly important. Silence is like a filter for your mind. It helps cut out the unnecessary noise so you can zero in on what really deserves your attention. You're no longer wasting mental and emotional energy on conversations or distractions that don't add value to your life. I've personally felt the impact of this shift. There was a time when I used to engage in every conversation, whether it mattered or not, feeling like I needed to always contribute, always be involved. But when I started practicing silence, I realized how much of my energy I had been wasting on things that weren't moving me toward my goals. Conversations that drained me, debates that didn't matter. Once I let go of those, I felt lighter. I was able to channel that energy into my personal growth, into the things that I truly cared about. Silence in this way becomes a form of self-discipline. You're consciously choosing not to waste your time and energy on things that don't matter. You're creating space for what does matter. The more you embrace silence, the more you'll find that your mind becomes clearer, your goals sharper, and your ability to focus improves. It's like decluttering your mental space so that you can give your full attention to the things that actually push you forward. And the beauty of this is that silence isn't just about staying quiet externally. It's about creating internal quiet too. It allows you to reflect, to think deeply about where you're going and what you want to achieve. You start to become more intentional with your energy, more protective of it. You realize that not every conversation deserves your input. Not every distraction is worth your attention. Since I started practicing more silence, I've become more productive. I'm more driven because I'm no longer scattering my energy across things that don't serve me. My goals are clearer because I'm not constantly pulled in different directions by unnecessary noise. And that clarity, it's priceless. It's allowed me to grow in ways I never expected. So, if you're feeling drained or distracted, I encourage you to try this. Embrace the power of silence. Start by removing yourself from conversations that don't add value to your life. Create more space in your day for quiet reflection. You'll be amazed at how much more focused and energized you feel when you stop spreading yourself thin. Silence is not just the absence of noise, it's the presence of focus. And when you let it guide you, you'll find that you have so much more energy to devote to what truly matters in your life. 9. Silence cultivates inner strength. One of the most profound aspects of silence is how it fosters inner strength. In a world that constantly urges us to speak up, to react, and to make ourselves heard, choosing silence becomes a form of quiet resilience. It's not about withholding your voice or staying passive. It's about knowing when to let your actions and your presence speak louder than words. Think about it. Silence teaches you how to sit with discomfort, how to face difficult situations without the need to immediately respond or react. It builds a kind of emotional endurance because you're no longer relying on external validation or constant dialogue to affirm your worth or your position. Instead, you're grounded in your own sense of self. You're not swayed by the noise around you because you've learned to find strength in your own quiet. In my own experience, silence has become a source of stability. There were times when I felt the pressure to speak just because everyone else was talking, or to defend myself in situations where I felt misunderstood. But the more I practiced silence, the more I realized that I didn't always need to react. I could stay calm, stay centered, and let my silence reflect my inner confidence. It wasn't about avoiding confrontation. It was about knowing that I didn't need to prove myself to anyone. This inner strength doesn't come overnight. It's built slowly, with each moment of silence you choose in the face of chaos, conflict, or uncertainty. It's the strength of being able to stand firm in your beliefs without feeling the need to explain or justify them at every turn. It's the power of being present and grounded in who you are, no matter what's happening around you. And here's the beauty of it. When you cultivate inner strength through silence, you become unshakable. You're no longer reactive to every little thing that comes your way. You're able to hold your ground, remain composed, and act with intention rather than impulse. It's a quiet strength, but it's one that others notice and respect. It's the kind of strength that allows you to navigate life with a sense of calm and certainty, no matter the circumstances. So, if there's one more lesson to take from the power of silence, let it be this. Silence doesn't just help you focus, command respect, or build trust. It fortifies you from the inside out. It gives you the strength to face the world on your terms, without being consumed by the noise and chaos around you. In that stillness, you'll find a reservoir of strength you never knew you had. At the end of the day, silence is more than just the absence of words. It's a presence. It's the space where we connect with our true selves, where we can finally hear our own thoughts in a world that's constantly shouting. Silence has this beautiful way of reminding us that we don't always have to fill every moment with noise or prove our worth through words. Sometimes the strongest thing we can do is simply be. I know for me, Learning to embrace silence has changed everything. It's made me more patient, more grounded, and more present. I've realized that it's not about saying nothing. It's about making sure that when I do speak, it carries the weight of thought and purpose. So, if there's one thing I hope you take from all this, it's that silence isn't something to be feared or avoided. It's something to be embraced. It's where we find strength, where we build trust, where we grow. In a world that never stops talking, silence is your secret power. Use it, trust it, and let it guide you to a deeper sense of calm, clarity, and confidence. This isn't just theory. It's real, and it's powerful. Take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Share it with someone who could use a little more silence in their life. Remember, silence speaks volumes. Let's embrace it together.